the world rebuilds and reinvents, there's a historic investment in infrastructure improvement projects, healthcare, climate change, fintech, mobility, digital transformation, renewable energy projects, a whole lot. Well, a closer look here reveals an economy in carrying out all of these projects. Although today is threatened by a lot of uncertainties in Nigeria, we have insecurity as a major threat to that. Globally, even in Nigeria, so we do have the war in Ukraine. And then we have in places like Asia, the new lockdowns following COVID-19 pandemic. But let's take a closer look at the opportunities in these areas and the challenges, of course, with a business development leader at Project Management Institute, PMI Africa, George Asamani, joining us from the UK. Hi, George. Good morning.
Good morning, and good morning to the viewers. How are you?
I'm good. Good to have you on the show. So, yes, a lot of activities. Even in our last conversation, we talk about government borrowing in Nigeria, and these is supposed to feed into infrastructure projects. But sometimes it seems we overlook that that's an economy. How big, at least let's focus on Nigeria, how big is that economy, the project management economy?
It's a multi-billion-dollar economy. If you think about it, project management is everywhere, right? So everywhere, in every industry, there's project management happening. So essentially, it's a sum of the multiple economies around the world. And when we say the project economy, what we mean is essentially the world where things are being done in a project-like fashion. So it's not necessarily just within the profession of project management, but it's also people whose job title is not project manager, but they're doing project type work. So for example, finance people who are implementing a new finance system, they have to get involved in project management. Obviously, civil engineers, they do project management. Someone who's doing launching a new movie or creating a new movie, there's project management in there. So across multiple industries, there's project management involved. So it's huge. It's absolutely huge.
Yeah, but how conscious is the world about this economy? Because we do know that every year, for instance, there are some funds budgeted for infrastructure in the private sector. I mean, it's a whole lot. You just made an example of the creatives. Now, how conscious are people that really this is an economy that should be given intentional approach and strategy in order to optimize the potentials, in that economy?
That's a great question. And I think, to be honest, many people think of project management as a skill within engineering or within construction. Many people do not think about it as a skill that is part of life in your everyday, in every sector. So I think that's a great question. And you talked about the funding that is put towards, for example, infrastructure projects or development projects. If you think about it, one of the largest streams of funds coming into Africa is for development projects. And the word there is project, right? So it just shows how critical project management is.
Yeah, and then the other side of that would be the skills acquisition, because if it's an economy, then you do need skills and personnel to manage it properly. Where on the top of the list of priority is that?
It's definitely a top five priority. If you look at, for example, McKinsey's report on what are the top five skills that companies who are moving into the future, project management is there. If you look at, some of the leading African research organizations that look at for the future of Africa, what are the top five skills? Project management is there. So certainly in everyone's list of top five skills to have, whether you're a project manager or not, you should definitely be upskilling yourself from a project management perspective. Upskilling yourself could mean a number of things. It could mean you're actually looking for certification, going all the way to do, for example, the PMP, which is Project Management Professional. You could go all the way from a certification perspective, or you could simply upskill yourself by getting some practice, getting involved in your with a local PMI chapter. For example, there's PMI Nigeria, so there's a chapter in Nigeria, Project Management Institute chapter. Get some practice there, join the community, and you don't necessarily have to certify it, but just building that muscle of project management, looking at how do I think of scheduling, how do I think of risk management, how do I think of people management, what are my soft skills, what are my technical skills. All this is included in project management. And I mention this because actually, when people think of project management, they mostly think of scheduling management, but it's a lot more than scheduling management. It's also looking at, okay, what is the business case? What is my business acumen with respect to the work that I'm delivering? What's the business purpose for it? So it looks at outcomes as well as modes of delivery.
And what opportunities are there for Nigerian businesses when we're talking about project management?
I think that there are loads of opportunities actually, not only for businesses, but for also for individuals, right? So if we look at, first of all, individuals, we talked about the project economy. We said everything is a project, right? That means that for many individuals, as long as you have that project skill or project management capability, there's opportunity for employment, and so that's on the individual level. In fact, one of our job reports show that 45% of new jobs over the next 12 months will require the skill of project management. So that's the opportunity for individuals. For companies, I think the opportunity there is around making an impact, right? And what I mean by that is, if you look at the population of our continent, between now and 2050, we're going to develop the largest workforce in the world. What that means is that we have an opportunity to be companies and to create companies that are going to service not only Africa, but service the world. So there's an opportunity for organizations to harness this talent and be the ones that are driving the future of work, right? So I think there's a huge opportunity there for organizations. Think about India and IT, what we call the global delivery model. In the 80s, you had several companies in India who thought, hey, we're actually pretty good at this software development. Why don't we start building it cheaper for companies in the States and companies in the US, right? That's the beginning and the invention of what we call the global delivery model, essentially build it cheap in India. And I think Africa has a similar opportunity in terms of just pure thinking, pure talent within our continent to be able to deliver that globally, especially in this world where we have remote working as an opportunity.
Unfortunately, mostly for Africa and Nigeria, we hear a lot of conversations about potentials which are not tapped, because if you talk about ICT, you talk about writing of programs, we do have the brains here, but it seems a lot of it is just remains as potentials, and sometimes this can be really discouraging. Is this just about the environment or what?
No, that's a great question, actually, and it leads on nicely to one of the things that we're working on as BMI. We have joined the number of organizations who are trying to make an impact within our continent. There are local organizations and international organizations that are working together to try to address this, right? And one of the ways that PMI is helping to address this point about, I'm not a software developer, how can I make a difference, or how do I harness my potential? We are providing solutions that don't, for example, require you to know how to code to build technology. And this is the world of low code or no code technology. It basically means you don't need to be a software developer to be able to build an app. So there are these new kinds of technologies and new kinds of solutions that enable people to get involved and to make a difference and to use their potential or harness their potential without, for example, being a developer. And so there are several initiatives that are going on in this background because we realize the point that you just mentioned.
George, but is it a business is slow to adopt, innovation? Are they reluctant?
I think it's more about the individuals in that business, just from my experience. And my response to that is always, you can either take the the carrot approach or the stick approach, right? The carrot approach being, when we engage with organizations and get a sense of how innovative or not are they. The carrot approach is encouraging them to say, guys, look, you could become the next huge global tech company. For example, the largest companies in the world today are those that have innovated. Think of Tesla, think of Alphabet, think of Apple. It's simply where the world is going. So assuming you're existing as a business to be successful, then to be successful, you gotta innovate, right? So that's the carrot approach. The stick approach, where it's rather about showing the negative side and using the stick. The old expression, innovate or die, right? History shows that those organizations that don't adapt will struggle. It's simply the case. And in today's global world, where customers are exposed to the best of everything, if as an organization you're not striving to innovate and you're not striving to deliver the best or at least close to the best for your customers, you're likely to lose those customers to someone else who is actually trying. So yes, maybe it may not be easy for everybody to innovate, but innovation has to be on your agenda. If you, as a leader yourself, you struggle with it, that's fine. You can, somebody else in the organization can be responsible for it, or hire people who will be able to bring that innovation into your organization. Because we all know companies that existed in the 80s or 90s and don't exist now simply because they did not innovate. Meanwhile, they were household names. So innovation is critical, and I'll encourage all companies to do that.
Innovate or die. That's really scary, but I guess that's the reality. Just before we let you go, the issue of brain drain in Nigeria, how much of a factor, deterring factor, do you see that being in the nearest future for Nigeria?
Yeah, brain drain has been a huge issue for a long time, and I won't pretend to know all the answers for that. What I do know is that it's complex and it's affected Africa in a huge way. And I think it's not just companies that need to do something about it. The whole ecosystem needs to respond. So right from educational institutions need to play their part, governments need to play their part, and of course, organizations need to play their part. But personally, what I'm really excited about is that, as I alluded to earlier, we're entering an era where remote working is becoming the norm. So we're starting to see people actually who have secured great jobs overseas or in other African countries, but they're simply working remotely from the comfort of their own home in Nigeria. So what this does is that it helps to both retain the talent within the country, or at least prevent or slow down the brain drain, but whilst at the same time allowing individuals to take advantage of these growth opportunities in other countries. And this is part of the advantage I was talking about in terms of the growing workforce. So as long as this growing workforce is skilled, then we have the opportunity to do this global delivery model that I mentioned earlier on, and to be able to serve the globe from Africa.
All right, thank you so much, George Asamani, Development Leader at Project Management Institute Africa. Thank you so much. We do hope that the message is just out there. This time it's not just about the government. It's also about individuals. Acquire that skill that you need to be functional and relevant tomorrow. Thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you. Appreciate it. You too. Thanks.
Let's move to the